Hello and welcome in to Blake and Noah LA2 Chicago, our 5th episode and our first episode in over a month. It's been quite a while, but we're back. I'm your host Noah Taborda alongside my co-host Blake Devine in Santa Barbara, California. Blake, how you doing?
I'm doing great. It's awesome to be back on the show today. It's been a long drought of no Blake and Noah, but we're going to get started and we're going to be going on more of a consistent basis after tonight, our 5th episode on the new Infinity Sports Network. And lots to talk about here today. We have the NFL and we have loads to talk about from college football, the new 4-team playoff release. I'm excited to get in depth talking about that one. But with that being said, be sure to like the Facebook page, Blake and Noah, live from LA to Chicago. You can like that on Facebook. Also, the number to call in today and share your opinions is going to be 224-563-8444, 224-563-8444. You can text questions, you can call, share your opinions on the biggest news in sports, which will include college football, NFL, NBA, and then a little bit of soccer because we have the MLS Cup today. But I'm going to hand the reins over back to Noah now.
Okay, also, if you missed the number, it will be in the comments section. Just in terms of some other stuff, you can follow us on Facebook, Infinity Sports Network, for the network in general. Be sure to check out some of our other shows on here as well. We got a lot of great ones. Jersey Boys Sports Talk, Kicking It, plenty of shows to watch, or to listen to, excuse me. So yeah, also, you can follow Infinity Sports on Twitter at Infinity Sports. And be sure to follow, share with your friends. It's greatly appreciated. And, yeah.
Okay. Well, with that, we're going to move on to our first segment of the day, and that's going to be the National Football League. Currently, we have a game going on between the San Diego Chargers and the New England Patriots. Sunday Night Football. Right now, the score is at 14-3 Chargers at the half. Sure to be a close finish in that game, and me and Noah will be sure to update you guys on the plays and the scores going on in that one. But with that being said, Noah, why don't you run down the scoreboard really quickly for us? We have a ton of games that happened today and a lot of notable ones with playoff implications. But Noah, with the NFL scoreboard.
Yeah, well, it's been a full day in the NFL. Well, of course, we'll start with Thursday's game. Cowboys come into Soldier Field and defeat the Chicago Bears 41-28. Good win for the Cowboys, who needed a bounce back after a thrashing on Thanksgiving to the hands of the Eagles. The Steelers defeat the Bengals 42-21, exerting dominance in that AFC North. The Rams defeat the Redskins 6-7 now are the Rams. They shut them out. The Giants 36, the Titans 7. The Panthers go into the Superdome and defeat the Saints. The Jets and the Vikings had to go to overtime, but the Vikings were able to escape with a victory. The Ravens 28, the Dolphins 13. The Colts edged the Browns on a late comeback led by Andrew Luck 25-24, sparking the conversation of whether or not this could be Hoyer's last game as the Browns starting quarterback. The Lions defeat the Buccaneers 34-17. The Texans beat the Jaguars in Jacksonville 27-13. The Broncos defeat the Bills 24-17. The Cardinals rally 11 points in the third quarter to give them a 17-14 victory. The Seahawks go in to Lincoln Financial Field and they defeat the Eagles 24-14. And one of the biggest surprises of the day, the 1-10 or the 1-11 Raiders go to 2-11, defeating the 49ers 24-13, and the Niners now sit at 7-6 as their playoff hopes dwindle. And yeah, that is just about it. There will also be Monday Night Football, of course. Packers hosting the Falcons.
Yeah, okay, with that being said, now it's my turn to run down the standings right now in NFL. And I'm going to run down the playoff standings because really that's what we care about right now as we run down the final stretch of the regular season. It's no more about the divisions. Well, you know what? It is a little bit about the divisions, but I think the playoff standings, it's what everybody wants to hear right now. And we're going to start with NFC. And at number one right now Arizona, which was able to come up with that big victory today at home versus Atlanta, 10-3 or 10-3. The record right now, they're sitting at number 1 right now. They're holding NFC West lead. At number 2, we have Noah's Green Bay Packers. They're holding a 9-3 record. They're currently slotted at 2nd, and they'd be the NFC North champ if they were able to hold the results. At number 3, my Philadelphia Eagles, which suffered a hard loss today to Seattle. They're now 9-4 on the season and the 3rd seed in NFC. The 4th seed right now is Atlanta from the NFC South, but they are in a tie, I believe. No, they're not. Actually, right now they are leading the division in the NFC South because New Orleans lost today. New Orleans is now 5-8, and I believe the Carolina Panthers are 4-8-1. So that leaves Atlanta right now in sole possession of first place. At 5th, we have the red-hot Seattle Seahawks, the defending champs. They're right now sitting in 2nd in their division and at the 5th seed overall. At the number 6 seed, we have Detroit with a 9-4 record, and they'd be sitting in 2nd in NFC North, 6th seed overall. And then the teams that are really on the outskirts right now looking in are Dallas at 9-4, just losing that tiebreaker to Detroit and Seattle. Even though they won that head-to-head matchup in Seattle earlier this season, if you can remember that. But a big matchup next week against the Philadelphia Eagles in Philly that'll really determine who wins the NFC East. And then after that, San Francisco with a record of 7-6 really hurt their playoff chances by a loss to the Oakland Raiders today. But they would need a miracle to get into the playoffs. And then after that, nobody's really looking that good. Tampa Bay, 2-11, worst record right now in the NFC. Moving over now to the American Football Conference. At number 1, we have Denver with a record of 10-3. They'd be the AFC West champ if results were to hold. At number 2, you have the New England Patriots with a record of 9-3. Like I said, they're playing right now on Sunday Night Football versus the Chargers. They're leading the AFC East. At number 3, we have the Indianapolis Colts with a record of 9-4. They're leading in the AFC South. At number 4, we have the Cincinnati Bengals with a record of 8-4-1. They're leading the AFC North despite an awful loss today, in my opinion, to the Pittsburgh Steelers. And then at number 5, you have San Diego, who's playing right now. At number 6, you have Pittsburgh, who's now 8-5. At number 7, you have Baltimore, who's also 8-5. So all these AFC North teams are all battling each other to get in position for the playoffs, and the Browns certainly did not want to lose today, but they still did. Now they're 7-6, and really there's a ton of teams at 7-6. You have Houston, Miami, Kansas City, Buffalo, and Cleveland all at 7-6. So a really tight playoff scenario at the back end in the AFC right now. But with that being said, Noah, why don't you share your quick thoughts on the playoff scenarios and what you think is actually going to happen, who wins what division and why?
Well, it's an interesting season thus far. We've had some teams that have really exerted dominance on some of their opponents, and it seems like we're getting a good idea of who's for real and who's not. And starting just in the NFC East, I think that's one of the hardest divisions to call because I don't know if we know what to expect from Philadelphia or Dallas at this point. You know, Dallas has been atrocious at home, but on the road they seem next to unbeatable, and they won again in Chicago. However, I do think Philadelphia will come out with the division title. I like what they've got going, despite the fact that Mark Sanchez hasn't played his hottest. I think they have a slightly improved defense than I think a lot of people expected. And I think that when they go up against some of the lesser defensive teams, I think they're going to be able to feast off them and pick up the wins. In the NFC North, I've got to go with the Packers. I don't see them losing another game through the rest of the year. But keep in mind, they are going to need the win over Detroit in order to win the division, barring a loss from Detroit. So that will set up an interesting Week 17. In the NFC South, whatever team comes out of here is bound to get probably destroyed in their first playoff game. I just don't like this division at all. I expected a lot better things from New Orleans and from Carolina. But at the end of the day, I have Atlanta coming out of here as the division champion. However, when they visit a top team or even a wild card team, I don't think they are going to come out with a victory. In the NFC West, I think it's time to say goodnight to the San Francisco 49ers. I think their playoffs are all but over. 3 weeks to go. They would need 3 straight wins and hope for a team like Seattle or Dallas to at least go 1-2. And that's a lot to ask for at this point. So I think San Francisco drops out. I think Seattle makes it in as a wild card. And I think Arizona wins the division.
Really?
Yeah.
Okay. I'm looking at Arizona right now, and although they got a huge victory today, I really don't know if I can trust Drew Stanton in replacement of Carson Palmer. He's put up decent numbers, but you have to realize that this is an unbelievable team at home. The 2 road games they had, they both lost to Seattle and Atlanta. I think next week they're bound to lose a Thursday night game in St. Louis, who has been absolutely hot. I mean, really, really good. St. Louis has shut out their last 2 opponents. That, never happens. And then they have to play at home versus Seattle. That's a trap game. And then they end at an angry San Francisco team who's going to be motivated to blow them out after suffering just 2 straight horrendous losses. And I think they're going to be fired up. So, honestly, I would not be totally surprised if this Arizona team finished 1-2 or maybe even 0-3 in their last 3 games of the regular season. And if they were to go 0-3, they're going to be 10-6. And they will not be winning that division with a record like that.
That's fair. I mean, to be fair though, St. Louis' past 2 games have been against probably 2 of the most trash teams in football, in the Raiders and the Rams. I do think it'll be a tough game. I mean, the Rams have surprised a lot of people. They kept it close with Philly, 34-28. They kept it close with Dallas. They beat San Francisco, though it was basically on a miracle fumble. They beat Denver. They beat Seattle. I mean, they looked pretty good, actually, against some of the better teams. And they've been able to surprise a few people. It'll be an interesting battle against Arizona. Yeah, you know what? It's going to be tough. I think it all hinges on the Seattle game. And personally, as a Packer fan, I'd rather have to play Arizona than Seattle. So I'm a bit rooting for Seattle. It all comes down to that game. Seattle-Arizona for me. Whoever wins that game wins the division. And it looks like it could go either way. It all depends on which Drew Stanton comes to play. We've seen Drew Stanton in a couple games play exceptional, but sometimes he's just way too erratic. He's got like a Mark Sanchez thing going on, both the Eagles and the Cardinals, hinging on the fact that the good Drew Stanton or the good Mark Sanchez comes to play.
Yeah, I really would not be surprised if Seattle finished out 3-0 in its final 3 games. Next week, big game versus San Francisco, but San Francisco is sliding as we speak. They dominated them in Santa Clara on Thanksgiving Eve. I think they're going to dominate them again on Sunday, and then they go at Arizona, like you said, that huge showdown game. Then they get to play a favorable matchup at home in the final game versus St. Louis. I wouldn't be surprised if this team finished 12-4, won the NFC West, and then got that 2nd seed behind Green Bay.
Yeah.
We'll have to see what happens there. But in the AFC, Noah, what do you see happening right now? New England looks as if they could lose this game tonight versus San Diego. That would drop them to 9-4. There's Denver, who's always sitting with 3 losses every season. They're 10-3 right now, and if you look at their schedule down the stretch, pretty tough. On the road versus San Diego and on the road versus Cincinnati before wrapping up versus Oakland. I don't know if they're definitely gonna suffer another loss, in my opinion. It's just a matter of if it's to San Diego or the Bengals.
Well, what I saw from the Bengals today, there's no way the Bengals are going to beat a Broncos team. The Bengals played at home, and they were a mess. They got doubled up 42-21 against an offense that is not nearly as potent as the Broncos, but the Broncos' offense isn't what it once was. I agree with you. I think they will suffer another loss, and I think that at the end of the day will probably cost them the number 1 spot in the conference. I think they will lose another game, though I do think they win their division. I don't see San Diego sneaking up behind them and taking it. Though San Diego's leading right now, I think New England will win that game, as do I think New England will win their division. In the AFC South, it's got to be Indy, and the only one that's really up in the air is the AFC North. But what I've seen from Cincy, I don't think they're going to win it. I think they may lead it right now, but I have Baltimore winning their next 3 games and winning the division.